Good morning, my brothers. Well, today's February 4th. It's a beautiful Saturday. And we're going to turn to the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, for God's daily dose of wisdom. And we're going to look at verses 1 through 7, and we're going to dive into verse 7. Starting with verse 1. Hear, O sons, the instruction of a father, and give attention that you may gain understanding. For I give you sound teaching. Do not abandon my instruction. When I was a son to my father, tender and the only son in the sight of my mother, then he taught me and said to me, let your heart hold fast my words. Keep my commandments and live. Acquire wisdom. Acquire understanding. Do not forget nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, and she will guard you. Love her, and she will watch over you. The beginning of wisdom is acquire wisdom. And with all your acquiring, get understanding. Interesting series of verses in the first 3 chapters. In the very beginning of those chapters, we find that he's laying a foundation for the reason why we should acquire wisdom, why wisdom is so important. Why should we pursue it with our whole heart? And he does the same right here in chapter 4, in the first 7 verses. The key, I believe, to this first 7 verses is actually verse 7. And it says, the beginning of wisdom is acquire wisdom. And with all your acquiring, get understanding. And I think, for me at least, I thought, wait a second, that sounds somewhat familiar. I thought that the beginning of wisdom was the fear of the Lord. And that's actually found in Proverbs Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7, but it actually reads, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, and fools despise wisdom and instruction. So the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. So we've got these 3 concepts. We've got knowledge, we've got wisdom, we've got understanding. And these 3 concepts of wisdom that the Lord is espousing here are, they stack upon one another. They build upon one another. The first building block is knowledge. It's the elemental facts or skill that one acquires through instruction. It's a Lego block, if you will, because as you put these Lego blocks together, you build upon your knowledge, and you then come to wisdom. Wisdom is actually a higher level of knowledge or a higher level of skill. It's a technical skill that is found through experience. So, for example, you acquire knowledge, you go to school, and the book says to do it this way. But wisdom says, I tried it that way, and it didn't work exactly the way I expected it. So I tweaked it a little bit. I did this instead, and it worked much better. That's wisdom. You started with knowledge, but you applied experience and experiments, and you refined that knowledge to the point where it becomes wisdom. Now, understanding is the pinnacle of all of that knowledge and wisdom. Understanding is where we get to the point where we can actually apply the knowledge and the wisdom in our everyday life. What good is it to have a head full of facts, to have experience, if we don't actually take that and make something useful out of it? If we don't walk in that way, it actually isn't worth anything. And I think we've all come to know some people whose heads are so full of facts and so full of information, but they don't have the sense to be able to apply that knowledge and information in order to make something useful out of it. As I was studying through Proverbs chapter 4, the Lord kept bringing to mind John chapter 14. I couldn't put it together. I didn't understand what he was pointing me towards until I jumped into John 14. I started reading through it. And the words of Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the Father except through me. John chapter 14 is also the same chapter where he says, I'm going to send you a helper, and you'll know him because he will abide within you. God is ultimately the one who gives wisdom. He's ultimately the one who allows us to have understanding. And so, even though he does that, we still need to pursue it. Proverbs is telling us that we need to get after it and we need to begin to pursue wisdom with our whole heart and to treasure her. And Jesus says, I'm the way, I'm that path. As you acquire knowledge, as you acquire wisdom, as you begin to put it together in understanding, you will begin to understand me and walk in my ways. What a beautiful picture that he has given us. That the way of the Lord is the way of wisdom. And God gives us that wisdom so that we can walk in the light and reflect his goodness to this world. In a world that's devoid of understanding, in a world that's full of knowledge that is, well, quite frankly, the world's knowledge is mostly useless. Facts and figures are fine. But God is saying, walk in my way. The way of relationship, the way of God's love is found in understanding God himself. And that's what he desires most of all, is for us to know him so that we can reflect his goodness to this world. My brothers, I love you. I hope you're as excited as I am about walking down this road of understanding wisdom. It's been a blessing to me. I hope it's been a blessing to you. Go out and make a difference in someone's life today. I love you.